Partner in crime, Danny Collins, as well. Let's give everyone the team news then, because Sunderland and Regis going with what he thinks is his strongest 11, Danny.
Well, what he's got available, I think so, yeah. Setup-wise, where we go with that formation, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, he brings Isidore up the top end of the pitch, coming in for Chris Rigg. And then, obviously, Dan Ballard's the other change at the back there. Chris Mepham dropping down to the bench as well. Both players will be disappointed, having played, obviously, a big part this season in getting us into this position. But it's a big call from Regis. That's what he goes with this evening. And that's what he hopes can get a tune and come back with. Worst case for me is a draw from the CBS.
Rob, before we get into anything else about this game, your reaction to that 11 and bench?
Yeah, well, I think I expected that Dan Ballard was going to come in. I think he wants the physicality of Dan Ballard. The other change is a surprise to me. Danny's pretty adamant talking to him that that's going to be the lineup at 4-4-2. He may well be right. Personally, I'm reserving judgment till the kick-off. I think Isidore might pull out to the left and Lefebvre might come a little bit more central. But Danny may well be right, and it's certainly an interesting lineup. It's a lineup that will cause a surprise or two here. It'll also have caused a surprise or two in the Coventry dressing room. And just as I'm not quite in agreement with Danny, in the Coventry dressing room, they don't know whether we're going to be 4-4-2 or whether we're going to be, just one up front. So they've got some questions to ask in their dressing room, which is good to have them puzzled before the kick-off.
Yeah, I think the people in the room maybe say surprised with Dan Ballard coming in. Obviously, he's been out injured for a while. Did come in the last game, didn't he? And got, was it 20 minutes or so? But I think maybe Regis has looked at it, and I said it last game as well, a bit of physicality, set pieces, both ends of the pitch, really, and that's what Dan Ballard gives us as well. So I think he's maybe looked at that, and obviously, as you say, you look at the threat as well. Hadji right top end of the pitch, he can stick it, he can pin centre half, so just gives us a little bit more physicality.
Just looking at some pictures here from the CBS arena. Much being made about this game, Danny, of course, is our record as well. We might as well get it out where we're from the off. The last time we beat them at home, you were in the side. In fact, you didn't really have a problem. You beat them a couple of times here in your time at Sunderland. But Rob, you have to go back before I was born, and people like Gary Bennett were in the side as well, to when we last won away at Coventry.
Yeah, well, we last won away at Coventry before the ground they're playing at now was even built. It was way back in 1985. We won 1-0 with a goal from John Moore. Our record against Coventry is woeful. Coventry have never lost a game in the playoffs except on penalties. So all the stats point towards Coventry. However, as you know, I'm a big believer in the law of averages, and I think Coventry are more than overdue a defeat in the playoffs and more than overdue a defeat against us. And I really fancy Sunderland tonight. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? We saw in the playoff last night that, a one key decision from the referee can completely change a game, as happened at Bristol City, Sheffield last night. Hopefully, the referee will be unnoticed tonight, and he'll not figure in the game particularly. But I really expect a lot from Sunderland tonight. I know we've been very, very off it in the last 5 games, but all of that has been because we've been focused on tonight. Everybody says, and I'm sure Danny will add to this, you can't just flick a switch and turn your form on, but the situation we're in, that's what we've got to do tonight, whether we like it or not. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I think obviously the lads have had a week now to try and get their heads around it. Disappointing last time out here against Queen's Park Rangers to finish with the defeat. And obviously you look at the goals, top end of the pitch, which we mentioned after the game is a big concern for me at this moment in time. Creating opportunities, whoever's played there, whether it's been Wilson or Mayenda, lacking opportunity in front of the goal. So maybe, again, he's looked at that and think, well, throw me cards on the table. Let's get them both out there this evening and let's see if we can really get at Coventry, because Coventry are probably coming into it as favourites. I was listening to the pundits last night. Everybody fancies Coventry, and maybe you would say rightly so on the way they finished the league. Obviously getting into the playoffs after dig a result out against Middlesbrough. We've obviously 5 defeats on the bounce, but football can change, and hopefully it starts this evening.
Having said that, Danny, there's a reason why Sunderland finished above Coventry in the league this season, is because we've had some fantastic victories this season. So much so, we haven't had as many since you were promoted from this division in the Championship as well. And Rob, we're there on merit in 4th place. It's been wrapped up for a couple of weeks, more than that. Yeah, 5 games it's been wrapped up for. And Regis in his press conference as well says there will be a different mentality. These players have been playing within themselves perhaps for the last 5 games.
Well, they won't be playing within themselves tonight, that's for sure. Coventry are tough. I spoke to Simon O'Rourke, that a lot of people in here will have heard of, if not our worldwide viewers. Simon covers the North East football for Tyne Tees TV, I spoke to Simon a couple of days ago, and he said he was at Coventry last Saturday watching the game against Middlesbrough, and in his words he said, they're not the big bad wolf, you know, Rob. They're a decent team, but they're not Real Madrid. And let's make sure we get at least a draw tonight, bring them up here, because for all the talk about Coventry's form, let's look at their away form. The last 2 games when they were desperate for points, they lost to 2 of the teams that went down. So let's just make sure we bring them back up here, level, and then we'll finish them off at Sunderland. Never mind the past record being poor against Coventry. That really good. I mean, I'm the stats man, and I'll tell you, stats are interesting for writing articles and talks for pints over the pub, in the pub. But Danny, as a player, will tell you, no stats ever had any effect on any game he's played in.
And even a lot of these boys, we mentioned it there, it's 10 games since Coventry have lost to Sunderland, where these boys haven't played in all those games either. And if anything, they want to put right what happened down there in the league as well. That 3-0 defeat, we were miles off it that day, let's be honest. They played really well.
It's probably our worst game of the season,
yeah,
wasn't it?
I would say so, yeah. But that'll be on the back burner. You put that in the memory bank and you think, right, let's go and put that's an incentive, if anything, to go and put it right, really. Obviously, and then the fans there travelling this evening. But as you say there, it's the first half, isn't it, really, of the game?
Well,
come back worst case with the draw.
And talking of first half, the first half when we played them at home this season here at the Stadium of Light, we absolutely blew them away with some tremendous goals as well in that first 45. And it was I don't know why we conceded 2 in the second half as we did, but we absolutely blew them away in that first 45 here at the Stadium of Light.
Yeah, again, going earlier in the season when we were perhaps at it a little bit more, moving the ball quicker. And then that was the game where both Romain got injured, didn't he? And Alan Brown in the same incident, really. And obviously Rodoni popped up late on to get the equaliser. But yes, over the course of the season, they've taken, 4 points off us, haven't they, really? So people will look at that. But for me, and as Rob says, it's a fresh slate tonight. You're starting fresh. Take the positives. We finished 7 points ahead of them this season, and that's without picking up a point in the last 5 games as well. Yeah. So credit to Frank Lampard. He come in end of November, done a fantastic job, 51% win rate. Fantastic, but it comes down to 180 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at the Coventry City side for the first time here on SAFC Live, broadcasting around the world, of course. Coventry City, they've made a couple of changes as well, Danny, and lots of familiar names. And we've come across this side, of course, this season twice already. But we know a couple of those players, especially Jack Rodoni. We actually know him from League One as well, don't we?
Yeah, a couple of changes. I'd say 2 like ourselves this evening as well. De Silva coming back in for Bidwell at left back. He played against us down there in the league, so maybe Frank Lampard's had a look at that. I thought Evac on the other side was excellent, up against Romain Mundle in the league game down there as well. And then the other changes, Ellis Sims, who we know about, dropping down to the bench this evening for Brandon. Thomas Asante coming in there, top end of the pitch, really. So, yeah, front 3, mentioned Haji Wright. I think he's a fantastic player at this level. Top scorer with 12 goals, like Wilson Isidore. And then other side of him, Sakamoto never stops running, works hard off the ball. And I think if you're asking me what their game plan's going to be this evening, obviously they've got the majority of the fans in there this evening. Frank Lampard will want a bright start. Can they, like they did in the league really down there, start the game really well, don't let us settle, and can they get themselves in front early on? And we might have to ride out the storm early on and just slow the game down a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think the first 20 minutes could be the most important 20 minutes of what we expect to be 180 if we don't go to extra time in the second leg. I'm sure they'll come out of the traps really, really quick. They've got a lot of pace up front, as you mentioned. Sakamoto, Brandon Thomas Asante is a quick lad. Haji Wright has got plenty of pace, but we've got to make sure we don't leave them a lot of space to run into. We've got to be tactically astute, which I expect that we will be tonight. We don't need to win the game. We just need to make sure we bring them back to the Stadium of Light, hopefully level. Certainly don't want to be coming back with a deficit, never mind 1 goal or 2 goals or anything. Want to get them back here at least level. As I say, I have a bit of a fancy for Sunderland bringing a surprise result off tonight, but I would bite your hand off for a draw at this moment. And for all the fact we're talking about them having some dangerous players, if they look at the team sheet, there's 1 or 2 dangerous players on the Sunderland side as well. And Wilson Isidore is way overdue a goal, and I have a strong feeling tonight is the night for a man who has been the man for the great goals all season.
Yeah, he's the man for the big occasions, isn't he? He always performs well. He's always involved in the big games as well. And Sunderland, in general, this season have performed well in the big games, haven't they, Danny?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, I know people will say we performed better against the top sides. Well, when you look at the points return, we haven't. We took a lot more against the bottom half, but I know what fans are saying. when you're coming up against Sheffield United.
I'm thinking the Sheffield
and
United
Burnley
game,
away.
the Leeds, the
Yeah,
Burnley.
away.
We
come away with the point,
really
missing
well.
2 penalties.
Sheffield
So,
United here as well.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
exactly. Yeah, so we've been in games, and when we're at it, and when we're at our best, and we've got the so-called best 11 out there, then we can match anybody. But it's obviously consistency over 46 games, which obviously hasn't been there, which is why we find ourselves in the playoffs. But it's been a fantastic season so far. Obviously, we're hoping there's still 3 games to go. We tailed off a little bit, but hopefully the lads can pick themselves up now, and what is a vital possibly 3 games for the club.
Yeah, well, definitely there's going to be 2 games, Rob. What's our history like in playoff campaigns?
Well, our playoff campaign history is pretty much like most other teams. It's up and down. We've had great successes. We've had, in the playoffs, it's either glory or bust, really, isn't it? We've had some games where things have gone badly. Last time we were in the playoffs, of course, we had the first leg at home. We beat Luton. I would have fancied us to complete the job down at Kenilworth Road, other than for the fact I nearly got a game because the injury crisis was so bad. If I remember rightly, we had Patrick Robertson, Lyndon Gooch at fullback that night, and they did us. Time before, of course, it was at Wembley with Ross Stewart after we knocked out Sheffield Wednesday over the 2 legs. And you go back through the years, there's been highs and lows. Probably the biggest high was beating Newcastle in the playoffs semi-final in 1990 with the old G-force of Marco Gabbiadini and Eric Gates, both scoring at St James's. So you can have the greatest of highs and the deepest of lows in the playoffs. It's up to us to make sure that the fans in here tonight, the fans who are watching everywhere, those that have travelled down to Coventry, have a great night tonight and an even greater night on Tuesday. Everything to play for. After 46 games, this is what it's come down to. We've got to make it count. And never mind 2 games, Frankie. We want 3, and we want to make sure we win that 3rd one.
Absolutely, Rob. Everyone is ready for this big game. Everyone in the city is behind this side, and we're not too far away from kickoff. You can get your match of the streaming passes right now around the world. Join us for the journey tonight and on Tuesday night as well. Get your match of the streaming passes at safc.com. We'll be back very soon with a couple of special guests. Darren Williams and Gordon Armstrong will be on the show. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to SAFC Live. We're joined by a couple more Sunderland legends. We've got Darren Williams and Gordon Armstrong alongside us as well here in the Sports Bar. Big round of applause as well for the guys. Look at this. All lined up. Danny, you could be considered a legend as well, if you like.
I'm the young pup of the group here. I'm happy.
Well, we're talking about going back. Gordon, you were at the club last time we beat these away from home. But those kind of records, they're there to be broken, aren't they? Especially on nights like this.
Oh, definitely. Listen, this is a one-off game and anything can happen. Having played in playoff games, you just never know. And obviously the first game is going to be massive, but coming back here is always going to be a special occasion.
Yeah.
And if we can stay in the first leg, we'll have a fantastic chance of going through.
Great stuff. You guys have also been involved in some pretty famous playoff games as well for the club. Involved in the Newcastle one back in 1990. Darren, probably the most famous playoff game ever in football, they say. What do you think of Sunderland's chances this evening?
I'm quite confident, to be fair. We've just been chatting about it earlier on. We woke up with this kind of same vision, same dream. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a tough game. Coventry always is, but I just feel that with the guys we've got in the squad, it's time for them to shine. I think it's a stage for them to shine, and I'm sure that they'll step up and produce that tonight.
Let's throw up the side, then we can discuss it, chaps, if we can just see the Sunderland 11 and bench. And, of course, you guys have been watching Sunderland all season, as we have as well. Gordon, do you think that's his best 11?
Yeah, obviously. I would say he's probably brought Ballard on for a little bit more physicality in both boxes. He's very good, isn't he, at defending things like that. So, and maybe Riggy hasn't been quite at it the last couple of months, so I understand that one a little one. And again, he's a young man who will probably come on after 60 minutes, 65 minutes, and hopefully he can affect the game then. You can fully understand the team, and if that's the way we go, we haven't played that way too much 4-4-2, but why not? The two lads are flying machines, Mayender and Isidore, so hopefully we hit them on the break and create chances. I still think we've got a far better squad than what they've got. That's personally in my opinion. I wouldn't swap Ellis Simmons for either the two up front that we've got for certain. The only thing I would say, Lefebvre on the left, I'm still not sure about that. Would be my only misgiving. But other than that, we've got a fantastic chance on the night to go and show what we can do, and we have got good players, there's no doubt about that, in the squad. Yeah,
Darren, former defender as well. If you're Chris Mepham, you're angry to miss out, but this is just, you've got to do what's needed, don't you? And the gaffer's picked what he thinks, as Gordon says, the strongest 11 for this particular part of the game, this leg.
Yeah, I think, the gaffer touched on it a little bit, I think, during the week, that he'll pick a side for the game, and this is the side he's gone for. Mepham's going to be a bit disappointed, but for me, Mepham's been a big part of the season. He's a fantastic player. I even thought, maybe he would go three at the back, with Mepham and Ballard and maybe 09, which obviously is strong, and you've got more ability in there. But for me, I just think it's a case of the manager's chosen the team for the game. Doesn't necessarily mean in the return like that Mepham won't step back in.
No, I agree with Darren, actually. I was thinking yesterday when I was looking at the team, will he go maybe a 3-5-2 if he wants to try and get the two strikers in there, top end of the pitch, and then what suits the personnel, what's available. If Remain's not fit, which he isn't, then maybe squeeze the other centre-back in and go with those three. Trey's more than capable of getting up and down at wing-back, as is Dennis Sirkin on the other side. And then maybe you're looking at playing Lefebvre in what I think is his strongest position, just in behind the two strikers. So that's what I possibly would have looked at. But when you say that, it's a big call where we haven't really gone with the back three all season to try and adjust and to throw that into a big game like that. So I can see both sides of it really, but I don't think you get the best out of Lefebvre out on that left-hand side. But go back to the Middlesbrough game away, where after 20 minutes or so, he turned up, didn't he, and he had a great game. So.
Yeah. Let's have a look at Coventry City then, for people just joining us around the world here on SAFC Live. We're broadcasting live from Quinn's Sports Bar. It's so busy here on Weir side. All the pubs are busy in the town as well. So busy at the Stadium of Light. They've had to open the bar downstairs as well, which shows how much people are really up for this game. So, Danny, talk us through a couple of changes there for Coventry City. Frank Lampard, of course, going in there with the momentum side, I guess. He's done a great job since he came in, though, Frank, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. As Rob mentioned there, a couple of games ago, they had a little bit of a dip, didn't they? And looked like they were going to miss out, and then turned up against Middlesbrough last game of the season in a massive game. So they got over the line, and credit to Frank Lampard, as you say, come in end of November, took over the side after Mark Robbins had done a fantastic job over numerous seasons. He's been in charge there, and he got them going again. And they've got a decent squad, goals at the top end of the pitch. I think they've scored 6 more goals than us this season, and he can bring Thomas Asante in, who's got 5 goals this season. Drop Ellis down to the bench as well. So he's a little bit of rotation in there. I think he's had a little look at the back line as well when we played them down at their place. He's brought De Silva back in at left back for Bidwell as well. So, I think he's got a bit about him, obviously, Frank Lampard, and if he can get over the line, what an achievement it'll be from his point of view. And as we said, they're probably going into it favourites as they finish the season. But let's not forget, from our point of view, the hard work and the sort of performances we put in earlier in the season as well.
Yeah, the media have been talking up Frank Lampard quite a lot in the run-up to this game, haven't they? But as you said, Gordon, the Sunderland side on paper, in pretty much every single position, you're picking the Sunderland lad, aren't you, out the 2 11s?
Yeah, I honestly believe so. That's not with me red and white hat on. That is the truth, yeah. If you look at the squad, I would say our value to our squad is a lot higher than theirs. I think the one player that does always impress me is Haji Wright. He's somebody that he's very direct and he disrupts defences. So you always got to keep an eye on him, I think. But if the team turns up, which it hasn't obviously in the last few games, which is all what we're all worried about. If it does turn up, we should be well in this game when we finish at the end of 9 minutes.
When do you think we'll know if we have turned up? The first 20 minutes, is that important for both sides?
I think it'll be a bit cagey, maybe it's for the first 20 minutes. I don't think either side will want to give anything away. I think for me, you're looking at the 20-25 mark. If we can keep them quiet, if they become a little bit sombre in the stadium, the away fans are going to back the team all the way. Every game, the away fans are there, they're up, they're chanting, they're singing. That'll lift the lads. For me, I don't worry too much about them. I think they've got to worry about us, because I think if we do turn up, then we will turn up.
Yeah, absolutely. What will be happening down there now, Gordon, as we approach kick-off, about 20 minutes away from kick-off? What do you think will be happening in the changing rooms? Does the gaffer just leave it to the lads to listen to music, or do you think we're getting hyped up down there? What would happen in your day?
No, well, one thing for certain, there wouldn't be as many staff, that's for honest. But well, basically, the manager will be last instructions, telling them what he expects of them, defensively, making sure that everybody's aware of what their responsibilities are, set pieces and things like that, which is vitally important, and just trying to build players up and making sure that, again, just trying to keep a little bit of a lid on it and not getting too wound up. Because, like I said, this is the first game of 2. This game, even if you watched the Man United game last night, I don't know if everybody did, but everybody thought the game was over. Man United went over there to Atletico, won 3-0. Everybody thinks it's all over. But it's not quite as simple as that. It is not over. Nothing will be over tonight. There's another game to come, and they've got to come to our place, and that's different.
And
there's no doubt.
Is that in your mind, Darren, when you go into a first leg of a playoff? Are you thinking of the long game? Are you thinking of, this is not done in 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think you've got to think of the longevity. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, 90 minutes down there, if we can keep it nice and tight and solid, for a fact when we turn up here, you go back to 98. And I speak every time I say 98, my hair's on my back and neck stand up. What a fantastic evening. We came into the game knowing we hadn't done particularly well away at Bramall Lane. We came into this game thinking we're going to win it, and not in a cocky way, just a confident way we went about it. And the moment we stepped off that bus here, we just knew every single fan in the stadium was up for it, and that got us up for it. You're coming out the tunnel, the away sides, the far end seats you first, the crowd just lifts, and that was it. You're walking out, and bearing in mind you're walking out with the likes of Kevin Ball as well, so you had no choice but to go out there and give your all anyway.
So, Danny, do you agree with what the lads are saying as well? If we go down there, get something of a result tonight, get them back here, that's where the big game is next week.
Yeah, I think so. But obviously looking at the last playoff we had when we went to Sheffield Wednesday, second leg, and got the result there, didn't we? So, yes, you obviously look at home advantage, which Coventry will be looking at this evening. And I think they'll be thinking, coming here, they'll need maybe a goal lead. Anything can happen in football, of course it can. But back here, I think we sold, 40,000 plus tickets already. You'd expect it to be a packed house. Get behind the boys.
They're anticipating a sellout, by the way, for
exactly.
that.
And I know it hasn't gone to plan in the last few weeks. And again, maybe people are questioning, have the lads taken their foot off the gas a little bit? Well, we'll see tonight, and we'll see again on Tuesday evening. It's a massive 180 minutes for the club. Hopefully we can get to Wembley, and then we see what happens from there.
Let's have one last look at the Sunderland starting 11 and bench for everyone who's just joining us around the world watching here. Those are the scenes down at the CBS, and that is your Sunderland 11. And bench as well. Salis Abdul Samed on the bench. Jensen Seelt on the bench as well. Maybe unexpected, Danny, to see Jensen back on there, but he's a good player. He's a good defender, isn't he? He's highly thought of around the academy. Someone like Alan Brown, do you think over the course of 2 playoff games, someone like Alan Brown and his experience in the game, do you think that'll come into play as well?
Yeah, possibly at times you may need a cool head in there, but you're looking through that. I think the only thing, if you question looking at the bench, we haven't got an out-and-out striker. Obviously, the 2 of them are starting this evening, so you haven't got another opportunity for a striker coming off. You've got the likes of Tommy, top end of the pitch, you're looking around it. Then Chrissy Rigg, maybe come on and give you a little bit of energy as well as the game wears on. But you may be just looking and thinking could do with a striker on there possibly. But as Gordon mentioned there, you look at those 2 there, and Mayenda, he's a box of tricks. He makes things happen, and we know Isidore's more than capable when he turns up and when he's on his game as well. So hopefully those 2 can get the job done for us.
Yeah, Darren, if you're defending against Wilson Isidore and Eliza Mayenda, you don't want to be caught in a run.
Don't keep a high line.
No, exactly. This is the thing. I was saying this earlier. It's always been a thing where I've said, it'd be nice to see them both up top together and see what they've got and see what they bring to the table. I think with that there's a bit of flexibility. You've got Lafay, you've got Isidore, you've got Mayenda. That can rotate. That can go in one up top. Lafay in behind, and Mayenda wide. So you can always adjust with it. And I think that's the capabilities of them guys up at the top end of the field. If they're on the game, then we're in for a great game.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, chaps. We'll leave it there. Thanks so much for coming down. I hope you enjoy the game. Let's take a couple of pints on Danny's tab at the bar. Why don't you? You can still get your matchday streaming passes right now at safc.com. We are about 15 minutes away from kickoff. We'll see you soon.
Sport, it's not just a game. It's in your DNA. Like us, you live and breathe every moment. You dissect, navigate, and analyze. At SpreadX, we bring you a world of betting where flexibility and precision are at your fingertips.